One, two, one, two. It's your main man, Juggernaut, Arkatech Beatz. Welcome to the live. We doing music production and beat making tutorials tonight. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do. Every night we get on at 9 o'clock. If it's your first time here, I'm Juggernaut of Multi-Platinum Production Team, Arkatech Beatz. Shout out to my partner, Mike Trauma D. Arkatech Beatz. So you know what we do, how we do it. We get in the building and we do what we got to do. You know what I'm saying? We make it work. I'm still kind of battling the cold, though. You know what I mean? Just for people who maybe new here. You know, I'm still battling the cold. I feel a little congested. But we're going to make it do what it do. We're going to make it work the way we make it work. Shout out to the folks who support the live. Shout out to the folks who come into the live and watch me do what I do from night to night. Shout out No L's. What's happening with your brother? I don't even know what that is. All right, No L's. Appreciate you, brother. Just make sure if you have any questions, man, to connect with me. You know what I mean? We're going to try that. Too fast. We're going to break this down and we're going to get into this real quick. Let's go. This should be a 4-bar loop. Shout out to everybody coming in the live. Let's double it up. not sure. We're gonna do it. What up? What up, Zach? Let's go. Shout out, Born Ready. Hold on. Shout out Chris Bell, what's up? I guess that's a good way to get it started for the live. What's up, everybody in the live? Shout out to everybody that's in the live. You know, we're live everywhere. TikTok, X, Facebook, YouTube. So we're live everywhere, all at the same time. So I got to look at all of the screens and seeing all of the different people from all different platforms and trying to make sure that we're working with everybody from all different platforms. But shout out to y'all. Listen, man, I'm still under the weather. You can still hear it, but I'm trying to make it work. I felt better yesterday. I don't know, maybe because I didn't sleep good. But either way, we're gonna try to get into this. Shout out to my to Noel's. You know, he said he copped some books. So, you know, he's trying to get his read on, trying to figure out some things, you know what I mean? So listen, we're here to answer questions too, man. That's another reason why, you know, we do the lives at night. So, you know, to answer any questions or anything that you might do as it relates to this music business, you know, we're here to help. Tomorrow, by noon tomorrow, there will be some new tracks up and some new licenses up and available. So for noon tomorrow, for those who are, you know, looking to get into something, we will have some joints up tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. Limited licensing, those things are going pretty fast. We got a bunch of new projects coming out. Got the instrumental tape coming out soon. And then we got a special project that we're working on with a new upcoming artist that's heavily connected, and that's how we like it. So, you know, we're gonna keep doing what we do. Hold on, I don't need this one. This one I don't need. Yeah, we here. So I'm gonna try to see if I got some more samples in here. I don't know. like this. I like how this sounds. All right, let's try something. We're going to get our tempo adjusted. Let's go. Let's get this tempo right. Just doing something weird. That's what's up, no else. Let's go. Let's go. Using is the note repeat button. So the Akai has a very special set. Somebody's asking me how I'm speeding up the hats. I use the note repeat button. If people watch me on my lives, I use my note repeat button when I'm triggering my drums. Some guys are really good finger drummers, you know, and I'm not that. I could do it, but I don't do it, right? So it's like, you know, to me, it kind of it's like if you're not like, you know, unless you're trying to put on a performance, you know, that's if that's your thing. But I use the note repeat button. So when I hold on the note repeat button, if you notice what it does, it gives me 1/4, 1/8, 1/32, 1/64, and then it gives me triplets. So if each of these parameters, it'll change how it triggers. So let's say, for example, I want to do 1/16, right? It's going, right? If I do 1/32, right? 1/64th, that's triplets. Right? using to do it like that, okay? I like this loop. Before I do any more percussion, we get a snare down. Y'all ready? Let's go. No DAW. Everything you see me doing is straight standalone, no DAW. Jedi, what I was turning down on the snare was the reverb. Let's go into it. So what we do is we going into that's the individual sound. I'm gonna click on Pad Mixer. This is reverb. This is basically a plugin. I've added a air reverb to it. And the only thing I did is I turned it down in the mix, right? Because it was at 100, and that doesn't really sound good for me, right? So I just want a little bit of it, so you can kind of hear it, but it kind of give it a little bit of an airy feel. You hear it? So it doesn't really take too much away from my snare, but it kind of gives us a little bit more air inside of the a little that reverb inside of the track itself. What up, Jedi? What's happening with you? Yo, make sure y'all sharing the live and liking the live. Them likes is low, man. What's going on tonight? I'm trying to add a clap sound to here, but that's a clap loop. But I'm gonna just we're just gonna cut it up and get us to where we want it to be. This is like a loop of claps that I have from something else. But I want to clap on every other snare. That's just what I'm feeling right now. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm feeling. It just feels really, feels like a festive record today. We're trying to stay away from aggression today, folks. All right, no aggression today. We're going to do everything smooth tonight. We're not going to, I had a bunch of people hitting me up about the beat from last night, and they was like, yo, the beat from last night was just bananas. It sounded like a movie. It was like a monster was coming. Pause. I'm like, listen, man, we just try to make the music aggressive sometimes. Sometimes it's just too aggressive. And some people just can't rock with it. They just, some folks be too gentle. if you know what I mean when I say, they be too gentle. They can't take it. Wolfpack. That's right. I named it Wolfpack. I named it after what you told me to name it after, Wolfpack. The Wolfpack joint. That's a nice clap. See how that is? I'm going to have to add that to the arsenal. Jedi, I'll show you how we do that. We do everything in the box. Turn this down. Make sure y'all hitting that like button, man. Let's go. Let's make the algorithm like us some more. Let's go. turn that kick down a little bit though, because it's coming through a little bit heavy. That's too soft. Don't like that. One more time. Shout out to Chocolate Boy. Pause. What I'm doing now is trying to program a bass line in. Trying to find the right sound. I don't want it to be too, because these are sub basses, and some of them have 808s to begin, and then if you hear it, they have 808s in the beginning, and then like these are like really heavy if you're listening to it on a Bluetooth speaker. Got you, Big Demon. You on it. It sounds one way when the beat is playing, and it sounds another way when I have the beat off. You know, this is where it gets tricky when you're playing with bass lines, especially with sub bass lines. You have to play it with the music and without the music to make sure that it's in the proper key. You know, because then you'd be playing your music and you'd be like, yo, why it sound like that when you play it on the big speaker? So the way that this works is this is doing pad perform, and it's doing chromatic keys. So in most cases, the keys that you see here in yellow will be the keys that are particularly in key with your music, right? Because I've already set the key of the scale and the octave to the same as the sample, right? So this helps us to stay in tune. You know what I mean? To a degree. Start laying this down. I'm drawing a blank now. I was just playing it, right? Let's go again. Hold on a second. What's up? What's up, Ascendant? Veno says he can't hear the subs. Are you listening to it on your phone, or are you listening to it on a Bluetooth speaker or in your car like we suggest? Give me a second. Let me just program it and then I might change the sound. These are samples that I've been collecting. So over time, you're gonna collect samples, man. And as you start to collect samples, especially because the MPC is integrated with Splice. So for those who are, if you get in the MPC, you'll be able to, sync your Splice sounds in there. So because I've had a Splice account for several years, we download a lot of sounds, and we have a library of it pretty much. So. So Jedi, when you were talking about sequence the song, like, so now what happens like this? Say for example, say I'm good with this right here. So I would basically label this as my hook, right? And the way that the MPC arranges into song mode, you have to think about it. If you've ever used, say, FL or whatever, you have to do everything in like blocks of patterns, right? So this is my hook pattern. It's relatively 4 bars because it's at 140, but whenever the tempo is at high, we should look to cut the tempo in half, right? So anything that goes above 120, we want to try to cut that in half. From going from instead of saying the tempo is 140, you can say that, but technically it'd be 70, right? So because we're counting it as double time, this 8 bars is really only 4 bars. So we could do it one of 2 ways. We can either double this to make this 16 bars, right? And we can make the 16 bars and make everything between 16 and 8. Or when we put it in song mode, we can make it repeat 2 times to make it the same 16, right? So 8 times 2 would be 16, or I can just make it 16 here. But for the sake of illustration, just to make it easy, I'm gonna make it 16 here. Remember, the only reason why it says 16 bars is because our tempo is high at 140, and it really should be 70. Right, but we did it at 140 so that we have a little bit more, so that we have a more, as we call, grids. So when I'm doing like all of those different things with the hi-hats, it gives us more room to do that, especially when you're at a higher tempo. When you're at a lower tempo, then I would have to take my note repeat, instead of going to 1/16, I would have to double it to 32 or maybe even 64 to get the same effect. Right. So now what we would do is we would copy this hook into a new sequence, and we would name this sequence the verse. All right. So now this sequence is the verse, and when we're making the sequence between the hook and the verse, typically the differences between the hooks and verses is just a removal of sounds, right? So let's say, for example, we wanted to take the guitar out of this verse, and let's just say, for the sake of illustration, we're taking out the 808 or the bass. Let me name this. And I need a name for the track. So somebody give me a name for the track in the chat, because I haven't saved it as a name yet on this, right? So now, if you notice, I got a hook and I got a verse, right? So let's play them together. Let's see how it works. Switch it, and the MPC is going to wait till it gets to 16 and change. Right? 2, 1, let's go. Alright? So then when I switch it back, it'll go back to the hook and it'll play it with the bass line. So now, sometimes what I would do is I would make a second part to the verse, because verses are now about 12 bars. Verses are typically aren't 16 bars anymore. So I would actually copy this sequence again, turn this into verse part 2, right? Do it, and instead of it being 8 bars, which is in here 16, we want it to be 4 bars, because we want that first part to be 8 bars and the second part to be 4 bars, to make it a total of 12. So we're just gonna cut this in half, and then that's gonna be 8. And then when we take the 8 and we add it to the 16, it gives us the full verse. And on this one, what I'll do, just for the sake of illustration, I'll take out maybe one of the hats. Okay, so let's do it all together. We're gonna start from the hook, and then we're gonna. Who gave me a name in the chat for the beat, man? I need a name for the chat for the beat. Let's go. All right, we're gonna start with the hook. Zach said strictly business. All right, Zach, you got it. Lewis, what up? So now we're gonna go from the hook to the first verse, or to the first part of the verse. Second part of the verse. Right, because now we build it back up to the hook. Say something slick. 3, 2, 1, back to the hook. Let's go. Zach, what up with you? quiet tonight. Y'all hear that? Zach said, strictly business. So look. So Zach is saying, yo, you're trying to figure out how to get in this game. Yo, listen, the only way to get in this game is to get in the game. We get your equipment. We start to learn how to use the equipment, and then we start recording the music or whatever that we're doing with it, and then we got to start posting the shit out of it. And that's really how it got to work in 2025. And then when you post this, the more you post, then you start to see what works and what don't work. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the people don't really talk about. They're like, oh, consistency. Yeah, but that's part of it. But the other part of it is really, you know, trying different things to see what work and what don't work. You know what I mean? And once you kind of get an idea of posting on the internet, you start to know what works and what don't work. You know? Like, for example, if I want to get a whole bunch of views tomorrow, then what I would do is what they would call like one of those clip joints where I would just get on here and then just start talking crazy, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and if I really want to do a lot of views, I just got to say anything about Kendrick or Drake, right? Say anything related to those two guys, and you got instant virality. You know what I mean? And that's really what I call the Drake stimulus package without even being a stimulus package. You know what I mean? But that's just the nature of the internet. You'd have to understand how the internet works. You have to understand that certain things people want to be. Shout out to my man NY the artist when he says people want to be educated or they want to be entertained. It's one of the two things. So if you're going to entertain them, you got to get in here. You got to entertain them. If you want to educate them, then you got to educate them. Some people don't want education. Some people just want entertainment, and vice versa. You have to find a way to mix the two. And the only way to do it is to do it. And you have to kind of, you got to get used to yourself. Get used to how you sound. Get used to how you talk. And then take notes and then just try to improve. Yeah, just get in the game, man. Eddie, what I would tell you to do is you have to make your own kits. You find the sounds that you like, right? And like, for example, if you notice with in my situation, bank A is all kicks. Bank B is all snares. Bank C is all hats and percussion. And then bank D is going to be miscellaneous samples. And this is for me the easiest way to kind of start your tracks out. Now, what you'll learn is that as you start doing more tracks, you're going to have the sounds that you go to more frequently. Well, what you want to do is for the sounds that you go to more frequently, you want to keep those. For the ones that you find that you're not using, you want to replace them. Listen, when it's talking about afford the beats, how it works with the remember how it works with the beats now, man. The beats got um the beats. You can do all types of stuff with the beats for us. You know what I'm saying? Like the beats are just not if you're using your credit cards or whatever. It does have payment plans on those stuff, so you don't gotta be you don't have you can get in the game, man. If as long as you got a job and you got something coming in, just get in the game, man. Yeah, and just structure your workflow. I think a lot of times we can overcomplicate the workflow by putting in too much sounds. You know what I mean? Like you could be doing too much. If you think about it, like if who's been in the live with me for the last 3 weeks, and this is day 22, we've been in the lives. If you've been in the lives with me for the last 3 weeks, you notice that it's just kick, snare, hi hat, maybe another open hat, samples, maybe a bass. It's maybe no more than 5 to 6 sounds tops. Like we're not doing a whole bunch of sounds. Like we're not doing that. Like that's what's making people kind of thinking that hey, I gotta have this production. That's like like that's not necessary. You know what I'm saying? At least not in the beginning. As you start to kind of get better with finding sounds and identifying sounds and understanding what sounds good on what, then you can start doing more and more layers. You know what I mean? And then especially if you have time to sit, like what I realized with dealing with production is that you need uninterrupted time. And a lot of times we don't have that because we may have families, we may have wives, husbands, some ladies that's in the building, husbands, whatever, kids, and if you work in your day job, so you have to find the time because this is basically a time intensive situation. So you have to take the time to listen to your sounds. You have to take the time to go through these you have to take the time to go through these expansion packs. Like you have to go through them. You have to go through them and you have to start taking notes and saying, okay, this sounds good. And it may sound good for when, you may hear it one time and you may only use it one time. But you need to be aware of where your stuff is. It's kind of like having a toolbox, but you don't know what the tools are. Yeah, my man is saying it's mostly mental. It's not really a big mountain, man. It's just sometimes we just get stuck. Yeah, we just got to get to it. And that's really just the time, man. It's just you got to focus on the time. Like this is the music business, man. If you think about how long we've been really doing what we're doing, this has been a long time we in this. You know what I'm saying? So you have to really understand, like, you see me doing it, you might be like, man, he's just doing it. So this is from repetition. This is a lot of reps, man. This is from me really doing a lot of different records and listening to a lot of songs and playing with a lot of different, sample packs and just listening to stuff. Man, you can make the music wherever you need to make it, man. Like what whatever you need to do to make the music, man. Because I use FL Studio for a very long time, and I switched to Serato because Serato had the stem separation first. So I started using Serato, and then I fell in love with Serato because Serato, like, the chopping and just changing the tempo and everything, just switches. Like you don't hear the artifacts. Like it was really good. Yeah, and then listen, like sometimes we can be chopping drum loops too, And sometimes when we chopping the drum loops, yeah, Serato Studio. Sometimes when you chopping drum loops, man, like sometimes they're not clean, man, and it creates a situation where it's kind of rigid in your drum situation. So if you're not chopping those, if you're not chopping those sounds the right way, and this is something that I was guilty of in the beginning, in our sample journey in the beginning, was not finding the appropriate place to my start points and my end points for my chops. If your start point and your end point is not accurate, especially if you're chopping drums, then you have stuff that sounds disjointed. Yeah, Serato Sample is clutch. Serato Sample is the plugin. Serato Studio is the full DAW, all software rather. Yeah, right now the MPC right now, like my standalone right now. I don't want anything to do with any computer right now. Like everything right now, all the streaming stuff is on the computer. like I don't need the DAW to be on there with the streaming stuff and all of that. Like I think that's just too much right now. Like I prefer like to just have this for right now, and we're gonna get it doing the way we get it going, where we get it going. Let's listen to the first beat that we did. We've been live for almost 90 minutes. We had 3 different sequences here. Yo, Jedi, thanks for the donation. Listen, I just want folks to just get started. You know, whether you producing or whether you are artist. If you're an artist, then it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. But if you're a producer, it's a little bit different. But at the same time, listen, we've been in this situation so long as not just producers, but you remember we're A&Rs. So we have a mindset of how to, 1, listen to artists, 2, how to develop artists, 3, not just producing them, because for even some of our own projects that we have had artists that's been on our situation, and we didn't produce it exclusively. We reached out to Rockwaller, and we reached out to Megahertz and guys like Just Blaze and these guys, and had them produce these projects with us. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't just us trying to produce everything by ourselves, because we understand sometimes, you don't get a classic like Illmatic or sometimes with one singular producer. Sometimes that's very difficult to do, or you have to have a lot of time to build those records. You know what I mean? So if you have time to build those records, then that's one thing. But if you don't have the time to build those records, then sometimes you have to search for the records to fill in the gaps, if that makes sense. Shout out to everybody that's sharing the live. Shout out to everybody that's liking the live. So that was the first joint that we did, and then we have this joint, and we named this music Strictly Business Tonight. Shout out to Zach Tyson on that for the name. Akai Sub Factory plugin, which I get a lot of my bass sounds out of. I really like that plugin. Shout out to Andy Mack and those other guys at Akai for providing that. We added a guitar sound in there. I don't know if y'all caught that. He said it's high value and it's free. Listen, it's free for now. I don't know how much longer it's going to be free, because I'm giving out, like how Gilly and them say $1 million worth of game. I'm giving out a whole lot of game, man, on this one, like a whole lot of game, and I'm giving people the latitude to ask the questions that they want to ask. But once you start really asking the questions, like once you go to our website, like not for nothing, if you go to our website and you look at like our newsletter, you look at our blogs, and you look at all of the articles that we got listed on there, you'll start realizing that there's a whole lot of information that we're providing. Like we provide a gang of information. Like people are not really realizing that. Between that, our podcast, we give away so much information. People are just not paying attention, man. It's like we give away so much. It's just like plenty information, man. And I really just want artists to win, man. Like, to be honest, like I really just want better music, and I felt like that's our responsibility as producers. The podcast is Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. So we had it on our original. It's on our original YouTube page, but I had to migrate it to another page because it was kind of disrupting the algorithm. That's something that I have to kind of let people understand. It's like, listen, if you're baking cakes on TikTok and your channel has you baking cakes, then you want to do, cake baking videos. You don't want to fill in videos with you gardening. And what I realized is that, what we come to find out is that all of these platforms are very, 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 they're very rewarding if they know what your content is. If they know how to categorize your content, then that's what makes you win. If they don't know how to categorize your content, if your content is about every and anything, then that's what kind of messes up your algorithm, and that's what prevents you from getting the amount of reach that you would really want to get. So I hope you guys are taking that as a notes on that. So when you're doing your music, you want to make sure that your page starts to become dedicated to that, and the content is surrounding the music, more often than not. It's all right, my brother. I'm getting ready to wrap it up. So what I want us to do in this situation is this. Remember, tomorrow we'll be putting up some limited licensing in terms of some tracks. There have been a lot of inquiries and a lot of people asking. About music and beats and stuff like that. So what we've decided to do is on Fridays we're gonna release a certain number of tracks that'll be available, but they're only limited licensing. They can be anywhere between 2 to 5 licenses, and then once you see that it's sold out, it's sold out. In some cases, when you see a beat that's sold out, we may put who it got sold out to. So you might see a name or two that you might be like, oh, okay, they sold a beat to such and such. Yep. So just so that you understand that we're not playing this for real. And shout out to everybody that's been sharing the live. Shout out to everybody that's been copying the books, who are basically trying to understand what's happening. For those who are copying those, who are buying books, and remember, if you want paper copies, of course, those are going to be. Do I help producers collect royalties? I do have a team of folks that I'm working with that can help producers collect their royalties. So, Joe, if you're a producer that has an issue with your royalties, meaning if you have a situation where you did music and you didn't get paid, or you got a record that's popping out here and you're not getting your massive recording royalties, I do have a team of folks that I am working with. There's a new organization that I'm working with that helps producers to collect what they're owed. Um, it's pretty dope, you know. So yeah, the books are on Amazon as well, but you can get them through our website, and they'll be facilitated through Amazon. So if you go through our website, it'll take you directly to it, so you don't got to search for it. Some people choose to buy hard copies, and some people choose to buy, the digital copy so they can have it on their phones or wherever they want to have. You know what I mean? He said, "Do I got any stories from the Dead Prez days?" Like, yo, Dead Prez days, man. Mike would have more of those stories, man, because um, Mike really was the one who brought me into loud. You have to realize, like, the way that me and my cousin's story is. Our story is like this. It's like I started the studio out of my parents' house in the Bronx. So like I started the studio there, and then I'm 3 years older than my cousin. So I finished college first and all of that and stuff. So I went to a regular traditional college for business and did all of that, and then he decided that he was going to go, when we started linking up, he decided that he was going to go to the Institute of Audio Research first, and then then do traditional college at behind that. Yeah, Joe Millie, I need you to hit me on the DM, bro, and let me know. Hit me on the DM so I could connect with you, so that we can figure out what's happening for you on the back end. Because you definitely don't. If you're working with big artists like that, then you want to make sure you're getting your bread, bro. And there's a lot of games that people play, man. They play so much games with people money, man. It's not a joke. So I can give you information to make sure that or I can put you with the right people to make sure that you can get what you're owed. Um, but yeah, Mike was able to go into Loud as an intern, and he basically worked in the mailroom. And then what we were doing was we were started to make beat tapes, and we used to call the beat tapes bash music. Like just want to bash you in your head. So we used to have those kind of tapes, and he used, anytime he had a chance, they used to have his listening room at Loud, where it was just pure speakers with a little audio system where you could play your DATs, and people who are old enough to remember that, the digital audio tapes, and play your cassettes or whatever. So every now and again, he would run into like Havoc from Mobb Deep and stuff like that, and he would be listening to his music, but then he was like, "Yo, check this out," play him some of his joints, and then Havoc would be like, "Yo, you onto something," and that's how we kind of started to kind of make the name for himself in the office, and then he wound up getting that promotion from the mailroom and street team to basically A&R. And then as we got on the Raekwon project, that's when I was able to get on now as a A&R consultant, and then get on as a staff producer and work for Loud that way. But I was in the private sector. I was working for the other Fortune 500 companies. You know what I'm saying? I was in there with my Timberlands on, trying to pretend that like I was a corporate guy, but I'm just from the corner, just trying to blend in. But definitely, Jay Millie, hit me up, man. We try to get that worked out for you. No L's. I appreciate you, brother. Zach, I appreciate you, brother. Like I said, man, no joints is gonna be open up tomorrow. Like it's gonna be a bunch of joints up there. So I tell everybody to look out for it. 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and then we're gonna go from there. Play this beat. I'm gonna get on out of here, and I'll catch up with y'all tomorrow.